Everything changed in a matter of seconds. You spend months, literally months, building an NFL franchise. The offseason is this grueling, agonizing process of salary cap calculations, intense medical evaluations, and midnight film sessions that just never seem to end. You carefully, painstakingly place every single piece of a multi-million-dollar puzzle onto the board. You design the offensive schemes, you sell this fragile, fleeting hope of a Super Bowl window to a desperate fan base, and you prepare for autumn glory. But in the National Football League, absolute certainty, it's just an illusion. The brutal reality of this sport is that one wrong step on a practice field, one awkward plan of a cleat, can completely shatter a master plan. Welcome to NFL Nexus. If you absolutely love deep, cinematic dives into the raw, unfiltered reality of the NFL, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and drop a comment below on what you think about this wild situation. And hey, to really support the deep dive content we do here, please consider becoming a channel member. All right, let's dive into this. Because we are looking at a scenario in Indianapolis right now that feels significantly less like a training camp and a whole lot more like a high-stakes emergency room triage. So I want you to really think about this for a second. What actually happens when a $114 million investment just suddenly stops running? It is the kind of question that can keep a general manager staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning, wide awake in a cold sweat. But this isn't some hypothetical scenario. This is the stark, terrifying reality facing the Indianapolis Colts right now at this exact moment, as training camp begins. You don't just brush off a 9-figure absence. That's not how this league works. In the salary cap era of the NFL, tying up that sheer magnitude of financial capital heavily limits a team's flexibility. It stops you from signing veteran depth. It stops you from securing elite offensive linemen or fortifying a shaky secondary. The money is spoken for, the check is cashed. So, when the financial anchor of your entire franchise is suddenly removed from the physical equation, the structural integrity of the team is totally compromised. You don't just tap the next guy on the shoulder and tell him to fill a pair of shoes that cost that much to acquire. The financial gravity alone creates this immense, suffocating pressure. But, as you'll see, on the field, the schematic vacuum this creates, that is exponentially more dangerous.
Section 1. $100 million setback.
$114 million. Let that number really sink in for a moment. That staggering figure represents the breathtaking 4-year contract given to wide receiver Alec Pierce just this past March. To truly understand the absolute panic echoing through the halls in Indianapolis right now, we have to recognize the mindset of this front office going into this offseason. They honestly believed they were on the precipice of something incredibly special. They looked at their offensive ceiling and decided definitively that they had the firepower to compete in a ruthlessly competitive American Football Conference. Make no mistake, they were not rebuilding, they were plotting domination. And Alec Pierce, he was the absolute cornerstone of that plot. He was right on the verge of reaching free agency. He was about to test the open market where receiver-hungry teams absolutely desperate for vertical speed, were just waiting in the weeds with open checkbooks, totally ready to drive his price tag up into the stratosphere. The Colts knew this. They simply could not let him walk out of that building. So they moved hyper-aggressively, locking him up the absolute second the legal tampering period opened on March 9th. Guaranteeing a massive portion of that money wasn't just a standard contract extension. It was a loud, definitive declaration to the rest of the league that Alec Pierce was the undisputed future of their passing attack. And then we get the plot twist that absolutely no one in that building wanted to read. Alec Pierce has officially been placed on the physically unable to perform, or PUP list. He will not be available to start training camp. Let's rewind for some context. Back in March, Pierce underwent left ankle surgery. Now, last month, he vaguely hinted to the media that he might miss some time in camp. But rumors are one thing. The reality of the PUP list hitting the official league transaction wire, that is a bone-chilling moment for a franchise. Let's break down the strict mechanics of the PUP list for a second, because it matters immensely for how this team operates right now. Currently, Pierce is on the active PUP list. This means he still counts toward the 90-man off-season roster. He can attend the film meetings, he can use the medical facilities and talk to the coaches, but he cannot participate in a single solitary practice snap. This isn't just a veteran taking a scheduled rest day to save his legs. This is the foundational piece of their offensive identity, totally isolated from the active roster as the crucial weeks of summer installation begin to pass them by. This is when timing with the quarterback is painstakingly forged, and he is just standing on the sidelines watching it happen. Section 2. The key moment. To fully grasp the sheer magnitude of this absence, we really have to understand the incredible on-field dominance that earned him that mega contract in the first place. Pierce, who was a former second-round pick back in 2022, didn't just explode onto the scene immediately. In fact, he didn't even reach 50 catches in any of his first 4 seasons. He had to learn the incredibly complex nuances of NFL coverages. But his 2025 breakout season? Oh man, it was a cinematic showcase of raw, unadulterated vertical power. Just look at these numbers on your screen. Just 47 receptions. That doesn't sound like a lot, right? But those 47 catches translated into 1,003 yards and 6 touchdowns across 15 games. I want you to really do the math on that efficiency. He hit the 1,000-yard mark for the very first time, becoming their clear-cut number one weapon without needing the high-volume, force-fed targets of a traditional possession receiver. How did he actually do it? Well, he wasn't running underneath drag routes or simple little 5-yard hitches. He was running pure 9 routes, deep posts, and massive deep overs. He didn't need 10 targets a game to completely destroy a defensive game plan. He just needed one tiny sliver of daylight, one single false step by a cornerback, and he was gone. Over the last 2 seasons, the hard data shows that Alec Pierce was arguably the most dangerous, deep threat in the entire National Football League. He led the whole league in yards per catch in 2024 with a mind-boggling 22.3 yards. And then, as up to prove it wasn't a fluke, he did it again in 2025, leading the league with 21.3 yards per catch. To really appreciate this, we need a deeper tactical understanding of today's NFL. Right now, the league is entirely dominated by 2 high safety shells. We're talking cover 2, cover 4, quarters coverage. Defensive coordinators sit in these specific formations for one reason: to put a permanent roof over the offense. They actively dare quarterbacks to dink and dunk underneath. These schemes are explicitly designed to completely eliminate the deep ball. Yet, against defenses that were heavily, specifically geared to stop him, Pierce was still tearing the roof off of stadiums week in and week out. He is the ultimate tactical cheat code for explosive plays, and right now, the Colts don't have access to him. Section 3. The receiver room void. When you remove a deep threat of Pierce's specific caliber from an offense, you don't just lose his statistical output on a stat sheet. You lose the physical spacing he forces defenses to concede. You lose the psychological fear he strikes into the hearts of opposing cornerbacks before the ball is even snapped. And the true tragedy of this situation really lies in what this receiver room used to be, compared to the crippling reality of what it is today. Shortly after they literally backed up the Brinks truck to re-sign Alec Pierce, the Colts made a massive, franchise-altering decision. They traded their other starting receiver, Michael Pittman Jr., to the Pittsburgh Steelers in a late-round pick swap. Pittman was the perfect counterbalance to Pierce. He was the possession chain mover. He was the rugged guy you targeted on 3rd and 6 for a physical slant route or a tough, grimy box out over the middle of the field. The Colts willingly traded away their reliable safety blanket, fully believing that Pierce's explosive dynamite would be there to carry the absolute load of the passing game. Now both are gone from the field, leaving behind an alarmingly empty hole on a roster that was supposedly built for a deep playoff run. With Pierce unavailable and Pittman currently wearing a Steelers uniform, the group of guys forced to step up into this massive void is frankly alarmingly unproven. Take a look at this top 5. Josh Downs, Ashton Dulin, Nick Westbrook-Ikeen, Laquan Treadwell, and his 7th-round rookie Deion Burks. Now, Josh Downs is definitely flash talent, but let's be real, he is an undersized slot receiver. He is absolutely not an outside X receiver built to beat physical press man coverage on the perimeter every single down. Ashton Dulin, he has made his living primarily as a special teams ace. Deion Burks is a 7th-round rookie out of Oklahoma who is quite literally still trying to memorize the playbook. You have journeymen and specific role players suddenly being thrust into the blinding, unforgiving spotlight of being primary offensive engines. The sense of urgency and pure panic echoing through the halls of the Colts facility right now is absolutely palpable. The front office isn't blind to this impending disaster. They know what they're looking at. Several weeks ago, rumors were heavily swirling that the Colts were mulling a major receiver addition. They knew they were perilously thin after the Pittman trade, but now, with Pierce's injury, it has escalated from a luxury idea to an absolute screaming necessity. There are some heavy hitters still waiting in the wings of free agency. We're talking Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Deebo Samuel. These are massive, game-changing names. But we have to stop and ask about the schematic fit here. Would Stephon Diggs' surgical route running and demanding intense presence actually mesh with a young quarterback in this specific offensive system? Would Deebo Samuel's bully ball, yards after catch style fit a scheme that historically relies so heavily on the vertical stretch? It is not just about blindly signing a famous name. It is about finding a veteran free agent who can learn a highly complex playbook fast enough to genuinely salvage the start of the 2026 season. And the reality is, with every passing day that Pierce is out, the leverage shifts and the price tag on those free agent veterans just goes higher and higher. Section 4. The rookie linebacker sidelined. Now, if you thought the bleeding miraculously stopped on the offensive side of the ball, I need you to prepare for the next devastating blow. Because this crisis, it isn't limited to the offense.
The defensive side of the football is currently facing a nightmare scenario of its very own. A master plan that was meticulously constructed over the entire offseason is currently unraveling right before our eyes. Enter C.J. Allen, the highly anticipated rookie second-round pick out of Georgia, a 2025 All-American who was drafted to be the immediate plug-and-play day-one starting middle linebacker. The crushing news? Allen has also been placed on the active PUP list to start practice, dealing with a calf injury. Now, while some local reports are trying to stay optimistic and suggest it might not be a long-term tear, the physiology of a calf injury for a middle linebacker is absolutely terrifying. Think about what a linebacker has to do. They rely on explosive lateral bursting. The soleus and gastrocnemius muscles in the calf are completely vital for planting a foot in the dirt and violently scraping from gap to gap to stop a running back. Calf strains in football are notoriously tricky, incredibly prone to lingering for months, and they are so easily re-aggravated the very second a player tries to push off with full game-speed force.
To truly understand the immense severity of this specific injury, you have to trace the incredibly high-stakes defensive restructuring that made C.J. Allen an absolute non-negotiable necessity for this defense. Let's look at the steps. Step 1. The Colts surrendered their highly valuable first-round pick to acquire superstar cornerback Sauce Gardner from the Jets at last November's trade deadline, a massive, aggressive win-now move. Step 2. Because they strongly believed they needed to get younger and much faster in the box, they decided to trade established veteran linebacker Zaire Franklin to the Green Bay Packers. Furthermore, they actively chose not to re-sign veteran Jermaine Pratt. Step 3. Operating completely without a first-round pick because of the Sauce trade, they nervously waited all the way until number 53 overall to finally draft C.J. Allen. Do you see the picture here? They systematically burned all their safety nets. They cleared the deck entirely for this rookie. Without Allen on the field, the very spine, the absolute nerve center of their defensive unit, is heavily, dangerously compromised.
Section 5. The ticking clock.
The injuries are grim, no doubt about it. The loss of top-tier talent on both sides of the ball is severe. But the ultimate enemy for the Indianapolis Colts right now isn't just the injuries, it's time. The timeline before the 2026 regular season begins is shrinking by the minute, and every single missed practice is a catastrophic missed opportunity to build foundational team chemistry. Let's trace this terrifyingly short window they are up against. Both Pierce and Allen went on the PUP list on July 27th. Just a few short weeks later, on August 13th, the Colts have to play their very first preseason game against the New England Patriots. For a rookie middle linebacker who's fully expected to wear the green dot, meaning he is solely responsible for receiving the play calls in his helmet and aligning the entire defense before the snap, missing live preseason reps against an opposing scheme is devastating. You simply cannot simulate that kind of real-time processing speed in a sterile film room. But the absolute cliff edge, the date that is circled in dark, heavy red marker in the GM's office, is August 30th. This is the strict, league-mandated medical clearance deadline before final rosters are aggressively cut down. The sand in the hourglass is running out, and it's running out fast. And here is where the hammer finally drops on this whole situation. 4. If Alec Pierce and C.J. Allen are not medically cleared by team doctors and removed from the active PUP list by that strict August 30th deadline, the NFL rules clearly state they must automatically shift to the reserve PUP list. And in this league, being placed on reserve PUP comes with a mandatory, non-negotiable penalty. They would automatically be forced to miss the first 4 games of the regular season. That is a full 25% of the NFL year gone, vanished. I want you to imagine having to face elite, hungry divisional rivals like C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans, or Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars in September without your $114 million offensive engine and without the literal quarterback of your defense. In a tightly contested, absolute bloodbath of an AFC South division, starting an unforgiving season down 2 franchise cornerstones for 4 straight games isn't just a hurdle. It could mathematically cripple their playoff hopes before the autumn leaves even begin to fall in Indiana. So all of this leaves us staring at a brutal, highly provocative reality. Can a franchise actually survive when its biggest, most crucial off-season investments just vanish before the very first whistle of the season is even blown? Can a team that meticulously traded away its reliable veteran depth to build a top-heavy, win-now powerhouse weather a chaotic storm of this magnitude? The Indianapolis Colts are standing on the edge, stare you directly into the dark abyss of the 2026 season. And right now, I promise you, the abyss is staring right back. The coming weeks will absolutely test the schematic genius of this coaching staff and the sheer mental fortitude of everyone inside that locker room. Thank you for diving deep with us on this NFL Nexus Explainer. If you want to keep following this unfolding crisis and get more highly cinematic, detailed breakdowns of the biggest stories across the league, hit that subscribe button, like this explainer, and tell me in the comments right now, do you think the Colts need to panic sign a veteran receiver immediately, or should they simply ride it out and pray for a remarkably fast recovery? And remember, you can directly support the channel and keep these deep dives coming by becoming a channel member for exclusive content. We'll see you on the next one.